Welcome to the Tony Frida Show. Tony Frida here, and our guest today on Mental Health Monday is Dr. Marra. Hi, doctor.
Hello, Tony.
How are you?
I'm great today.
Good. Well, today we have a kind of a sensitive topic. You spend your lifetime trying to become somebody, and then a lot of people spend their final years and they can't remember who that was that they spent a life trying to become. So it's a tragic situation. Personally, I have an 87-year-old father, and he's got dementia and a lot of health problems, and he's just a shadow of his former self. And it's tragic to see him decline because he was so vibrant and smart, super smart, sharp, funny, charming guy, very accomplished, and he's just smart enough now to know that he's not smart, and it breaks my heart because I know he's embarrassed by it. I know he's demoralized by it, and it's this idea that you kind of have to start mourning for someone before they're really gone, because parts of him are already gone and they're not coming back. So this is something that a lot of us have experienced personally, but societally, the macro scale, it's a massive issue because medical science has figured out how to make people live longer, prolong life, extend life, but at what cost? The
Yeah.
cost is enormous to society and to the families and to the people and to their quality of life because they're living longer. But I see these very old people. Man, I'm old-ish, but I'm talking about like people in the 80s, 90s, and some of them have almost no quality of life, and it's almost like it's hard to make a case for them to be living. So some people, like the neo-Malthusians, so this is a big part of understanding the world, is understanding that a lot of people in power are neo-Malthusians. So Thomas Malthus was an English scholar, and he wrote this book in the early 19th century. He made this prediction that as human population increases, we won't be able to keep up the production of resources to be commensurate with the population increase, and it will lead to mass starvation, poverty, famine, and war. He said it will be the end of civilization if we keep having too many people born on the earth. Proved he was wildly wrong, but there's these neo-Malthusians who they combine forces with the eugenicists who believe that they have a right to play God and determine who lives and who don't. So these neo-Malthusian eugenicists attached and reawakened his ideas, and they just paperclipped it to the climate change narrative. That now we have to cull the population because climate change is going to reduce the living space and the space that we have for farm production and all these other alarming theories that are turning out to be untrue as well. So the Malthusian eugenicists are a big part. People like Bill Gates, lovely Bill Gates. But in Canada, they have a solution they've come up with called the MAID program, and it stands for Medical Assistance in Dying. And they've had it for 10 years now. And now 1 in 20 Canadians are unalived by voluntary euthanasia. And the reason they did it is because they projected the costs, and they said that this program over the next 20 years will save them $1.2 trillion in government spending for extending the life of people rather than putting them out of their misery, so to speak. So they've got into the business of unaliving us, and it's quite a thriving business. So, and it perfectly aligns with this neo-Malthusian philosophy. So that's just kind of setting the table there. But we're lucky to have Dr. Marra here because Dr. Marra has worked in the nursing homes with these populations for years. She saw firsthand the trials and tribulations and difficulties that they go through, and the agony and the human suffering, and the this idea of prolonging life at what cost? You know, I mean, what are they really living for, and is it worth it? And because the price to the families who care for the people, the price financially, their whole life savings goes into extending their life for 10 years. I mean, some of these nursing homes cost $500,000 a year, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they gouge people, in my estimation, by charging these buy-in fees. And I think they're taking advantage of the fact that people are desperate and don't want to put their parents in some like hellhole. So it's a very, very difficult situation. I'm trying to be sensitive about it because it's a
Yeah,
sensitive
it's a
topic.
very sad thing because you're talking about prolonging life, right? So longevity, quantity versus quality a lot of the time. So people living longer doesn't necessarily mean that they're living better. Um, and a lot of the statistics show that as we age, especially into our mid to late 80s and 90s, at least approximately half of us, 40 something percent, do need care. Um, and people in those pockets, or even age 75 and older, will at least have two medical issues that are somewhat disabling to them or impairing to their independence. So it's kind of a question of longevity over quality of life, and nobody really wants to be in a situation where they're dependent on their family for their care. People want to stay independent. So longevity doesn't necessarily mean independent.
Yeah. And what are some of the difficulties you saw when you were treating these patients, like some of the common situations?
So, first of all, the financial piece that you mentioned, a lot of the it's more of the assisted and independent living facilities, independent living facilities have buy-ins. Not all of them, but a lot of them have like a buy-in of a certain amount of money. And the nicer looking the place with more amenities, that doesn't mean that the care is going to be better necessarily, because I've worked in the highest of end and the lowest of end places. um, might be upwards of $250,000 to just have your golden ticket to be able to go to that place. That doesn't include anything else. That's just your ticket in, and they keep that money. And then you're paying, you know, at a minimum 5,000 a month to live in a place that's called independent living, with the illusion that you're independent, but you're not. You need some assistance. So there's different levels of care. So there's people that live in facilities where they're buying into the idea that as they age, they're going to need more help. So if they're in this place, they can step down in their care and get more help. But I don't know what all the financial trickery is, but there definitely is some deception and illusion. So if somebody winds up in a nursing facility, that means they need a lot of physical care, usually, and sometimes it could just be a dementia thing, and they could be physically very able. But those places alone will cost, it depends on what part of the country you're in, but they usually between 12 and 16 or 17,000 a month for a skilled nursing home. And I know all these numbers get mysterious. People don't want to talk about it, but that's the reality. So what happens is most of the people will that have saved their whole lives and have money wind up having to give it all to the facility, and then they wind up going on to Medicaid services. So the facility takes that monthly amount from them, whatever they have saved, and it'll include their house as well.
Yeah,
So
they'll take your house, your life
yeah,
savings, and
yeah.
then
And then they'll take your Social Security income that you get. They'll capture that money into their income that they gather from you every month, and then you'll wind up basically going, broke, basically, and going on Medicaid. Medicaid is, financial assistance. So then the skilled nursing home takes money from the state, from the feds, to pay for your care every month to live in a facility, which includes, all your meals, room and board, and assistance with your daily activity, your daily living skills like bathing, um, you know, uh, eating, you don't prepare your own foods, mobility wise. Doctors will a lot of times come into the facilities to treat people so they don't have to always go out. So the whole idea is supposed to be less of a strain on the family, right?
yeah, and that's, I mean, in a good case scenario where the person still has, they're still relatively high functioning. I think it's kind of a good bargain for the family and the people. But in the cases where the people are low functioning, I mean, and they're just, it takes a huge toll on, like, say your parents are in their 80s or you're in your 60s, and you're spending your later years putting all your energy into taking care of your
Yeah.
parents, and it's
Yeah, you'll be
quite
spending
a
at least
burden.
15 to 17, upwards of 70% of your time taking care of your loved one, which is an expense to your occupation, to just right? You might lose time with work, you might lose money because you're caring for them.
Oh yeah.
Your personal strain on yourself caring for them. Um,
And you've seen the fallout. You've seen patients on both sides, right? The elderly people who are, like, what are some of their psychological problems, and then also uh, their children. What are some of their problems?
I think it's a massive, so even when they're loved ones, a lot of times it's 40%, about 40% of the people that care for the elderly population that have physical, requirements and needs are the children, 40%, and about 20% are the spouses. And then the other 40% varies between various family members or whatever, but it's primarily the children, and then it might be like spouses. The toll is tremendous. I mean, even when I was consulting in some of the facilities I was in, I was running caregiver. Sorry about my phone. I'm gonna shut that. I was running caregiver support groups, and so these were family members where their loved one was in a facility being taken care of, but they were still feeling the strain and the toll of guilt that they weren't able to take care of them at home, strain, guilt that they feel they abandoned their loved one, the stress of it, the going back and forth to the facility, um, the amount of stress is tremendous, and I'm personally going through it as well, so I can appreciate it from that end. And when it's physical limitations, a lot of times the patients are feeling very depressed. They don't want to be in a facility. They want to be on their own. And I'll tell you, in all the hundreds of, maybe thousands of patients I treated in these facilities, only once or twice at the most, did I have somebody say to me that they were happy to be there
Wow,
in these
that
skilled nursing facilities. And these are nicer places,
that's shock.
where they had
That's
their
a
own
shocking
rooms.
statistic.
Well, you go from living a full life, right? As an adult, having your own home, having a job, having your independence, your autonomy, you can drive, you go a place, you do whatever you want, you have friends, to living in one room in a building, in an institutional setting. It doesn't matter how I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how fancy or unfancy it is, to a point. I mean, some of them are really, really, really bad, but to a point. But most of them, the quality of your life has changed dramatically once you go into a place. So the rate of depression is extraordinarily high. And, the amount of patients that I had that would be on suicide watch or suicide attempted was quite high. That's why psychologists are in demand in a lot of these facilities, because the level of mental health issues goes up. As far as, populations, one of the most depressed populations is the elderly, without a doubt. No second guesses on my part. Of course, there are other groupings of populations that do struggle with a higher level of depression than the average person. But the elderly, by far, the most depressed.
Well,
Understandably, in a way,
well,
right?
yeah, and I mean, this is where it's like the balance between is the life worth living or not, and what
Mm-hmm.
happened. Canada was kind of a test case for here, and now in New York, as of August 5th, just 11 days ago,
Yeah.
it is now legal to have medically assisted murder in New York State.
Suicide, euthanasia. I mean, it's just such
Well,
a
it's a state giving you a lethal injection, so you could call it, I mean, assisted suicide, murder,
euthanasia.
euthanasia, but they're giving you a lethal injection. The state is taking your life. So you could dress it up any way you want. That's what it is. You go to a place and they give you lethal injection.
Yeah, it's such a tricky thing.
No, it's very,
And
and
yeah,
we want to talk about solutions here too. And I think there's a lot of ways you can address the situation so you don't become so frail mentally and
yes,
physically when
there
you're
are.
older. You become a super-ager
Yeah,
because this population, I mean, they're living long lives, but they've had a lifetime, a lot of them, of eating the standard American diet and taking a lot of
yeah,
drugs. And
yeah.
a lot of dementia is caused by drug use that people don't really know about.
Polypharmacy, yes.
Polypharmacy, but I just want to get into one class of drug here. Well, there's several that contribute to dementia. These cholinergic,
Cholinergic.
anticholinergic. I can't say
There
that
you
word.
go.
It blocks acetylcholine, which is crucial in your brain for memory and focus and attention. And some of the anticholinergics are Benadryl and other antihistamines. Other classes of drugs that contribute to dementia and are benzodiazepines,
Hmm.
Xanax, Valium, Klonopin,
Yeah,
Ativan, antipsychotics, some
yeah,
antidepressants, and sleep meds like Ambien or Seroquel. And a lot of these older people are taking, polypharmacy. They're taking
they're
multiple drugs that are
yeah,
helping one thing in their brain by shutting off this signal, but increasing their likelihood by 50% of
yeah,
having dementia.
yeah. It's
So,
crazy. If you probably were to take a lot of these patients off a good portion of the drugs,
yeah,
a lot of their functioning status would come back. And I know we're all afraid and we're treating a symptom, so we give this for one symptom and this for another and this for another. But it's so overly used. It's so overly used, rather than looking at ways to treat people that are healthier and more sustainable and less damaging to their bodies and their minds.
yeah.
Really.
So, I mean, I have a problem with government having the power to take your life, but I don't know. I'm seeing, the more I see of these elderly people, or some of them, I mean, there's no quality of life. There's a guy with his head in his lap.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know who his kids are. He
yeah.
doesn't know what day it is. He can barely eat, talk, can't
Well,
walk.
because medicine is about saving lives, and it doesn't matter to what extent or what quality of life that means,
Yeah,
right? And unfortunately, Anthony, you and I have had the experience of having to make this decision about some of our dogs a couple of
yeah.
times, where their
4 dogs in 2 years.
their qual their quality of life was starting to suffer, and the
Yeah,
risk to their suffering was exponentially increasing. So it just would come to these decision trees, these decision points, where we had to decide, well, we keeping them around for us? Are
yeah,
they still able to be around? How much percent, do like an evaluation, what percentage of their time in their daily life is good? and what
Yeah.
percentage is not good, and how much worse is it going to get. And I'll tell you, making those decisions to have to euthanize the dogs, that was an extra. I felt in a way very conflicted about it, because I'm not God,
We're
and
playing God, yeah.
it
But now
almost
that,
feels like you're playing God when you're making those decisions, but
well, yeah.
you're making those decisions for what's the best for the animal.
But now
It's a,
they've taken that model and they're using it not with
for
dogs, but
people.
with people. I mean,
Yeah, it's
happening right
tricky.
now.
Yeah, it is
So
tricky.
it's not a theory. It's happening right now. 1 in 20 Canadians die
Yeah.
this way. They just passed a law in New York State to make it legal. So this is something we're going to have to, a lot
I
of us
think,
are
I
confronted
think
with.
you've mentioned some of the thresholds for, I think the thresholds for what's okay for euthanasia and what's not for Canada
Well, I can
have been
read
a
you.
little disturbing.
Well, I can
And
read you the ones
having
from
a
Canada.
20-year-old take his life. Oh,
These are okay. You want to hear the act? This is
yeah.
to be eligible. You have to be at least 18 years old. Have a serious illness, disease, or disability. Experience enduring physical or psychological suffering that they find intolerable and not be
Or,
relieved. These are all, yeah. So this one's the one that gets me. Experiencing enduring physical or psychological suffering that they find intolerable and that cannot be relieved under conditions they consider acceptable. It also must be voluntary and give informed consent. But
yeah,
in next year, they're going to vote to include mental illness as a requirement
yeah,
to qualify. A
yeah. I
qualification.
have a big problem with that.
They're,
A
they're,
really
they're
big.
doing that next year. They're going to see if because they want to unalive more people, and
Yeah.
they're going to include. They're probably going to pass it, which would mean all you have to do to get unalived by the state is say that you have a mental illness, and like everybody has a mental illness now. So
Especially now.
yeah, everybody's got something. So that's a pretty low threshold.
Yeah,
Uh,
the threshold is, I think, what I find the most disturbing of it. Um, it's not that, maybe for some older people, their quality of life is 90% bad,
yeah, this is. I
maybe
mean,
even 99% bad. Then what is the point of them being
what
alive?
is the point? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I listen. This okay. I'm gonna do a little Tony Frieda rant. Right. This is Tony Frieda. This is my
We
personal.
love your rants, Tony.
I'm not gonna be that guy. Okay. I'm not gonna burden my son or my loved ones with this taking care of this guy with his head in his lap, drooling in his oatmeal. Right. That to me, that to stay alive for what? To ruin their lives? There's something selfish about it. And I think at the heart of it, and some of these people, not all of them, but there's a certain percentage where it's just they're so freaking afraid of dying that they're willing to take everybody else with them. And that's where selfishness comes in, and it's immoral. Your children, you brought your children into this world. They don't know you anything. My son doesn't owe me a damn thing. He didn't want to be born. I brought him into this
Maybe
world,
you
right?
did. You don't know.
So this idea that you it's incumbent upon you just because somebody gave birth to you to take care of them and change their diaper when they're 90 years old. If you want to do that, fine. But you don't owe. He doesn't owe me anything. I don't. I would never consider ruining 10 years of his life so I could just breathe for another 10 years.
I think the tricky thing, though, Anthony, is it doesn't happen that dramatic. It doesn't go from you're functioning like this till the. Usually, it doesn't, unless you have
Yeah. Well,
very
then
tragic.
I would
Till the
unalive
next day you
myself.
wake up and your head is in your lap. Like, it happens so gradually and so insidiously that the question of quality of life is a more blurry thing to make a decision about. It's not usually very dramatic. Sometimes it is, right? When people go on ventilators and respirators and they're on life support. How long do you sustain them on life support, and what's the likelihood that they're going to wake up perfectly fine and normal like they were before? It's not usually dramatic like that. It's usually much more insidious and gradual, right? Like your father or even
I
my
know, but
mother.
here's the thing though. Like, you know, if you're 85 years old, you're not going to get better. I mean, the graph's going to go down, right? So you can extrapolate that and say, oh, I'm pretty messed up right now. I'm pooping my pants and I can't talk and I can't think and I can't walk and I'm a burden to everybody around me. It's not going to go like this. It's only going
Well,
to.
and then the rate of suicide attempts is high in the elderly
I know.
population.
I've seen it personally, and I
Yeah.
know, and I get that, and I
Yeah.
would be one of those people because I don't think me living is so important that I get to drag everybody else with me. And it's like there is a selfishness in some of these people in my
When they're
point.
alert. When they're alert.
Yeah, obviously, if you're not alert, that's different. But that's why I used to be against this idea, but I don't know. I'm ambivalent about it because I see both sides of the euthanasia equation.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
really tough thing, and
Yeah.
I know what I just said wasn't very sensitive, but that's how I feel personally about it.
Yeah. Well, it's quality versus quantity again. And, your father's 87 and my mother's 85 and my mother has dementia now. And her quality of life is questionable now for me.
Did you hear about this dating site app now they have for old people? It's called Carbon Dating. That's a joke. Little levity to break up the death panel conversation.
But we were talking about you mentioning like solutions, like as far as like the way you live your life and the way you can enhance the quality of whatever life you have left. There are things that can be done, and I think the difficult thing is we know what a lot of those things are, right? We know the things that we need to do to stay well as long as we can. And we've talked about them here over and over again, but it's having like a healthy diet, trying to be very informed about the food you put it into your system, trying to be informed about the medications that are prescribed to you that you make a decision about taking or not. Just because a doctor says to take it doesn't mean you take it.
Yeah.
Just take it blindly, that you're an informed consumer of medications, of medicine, of food.
Well,
Physical activity is important.
it's difficult to be informed because unless you go to Substack, because if you Google something,
Yeah.
I mean, the drug companies own Google, and everything you hear on there
It's
is drug
difficult to
company
be an
property.
informed consumer, although I told you about an app I came up with that take your phone into a food store and you put your phone onto the food in the store and it tells you danger warning, this has things
Yeah,
in it
pretty
or
much
this is fine.
everything. Well, so it's funny. You walk into
Pretty
a
much
store, like,
everything.
they have a health food section. It's like this is health food. What's the other stuff? Sick food? Because they're basically telling you everything
Yeah.
else is poison. So this
Yeah.
is the one little section where it's healthy. The rest, yeah, you probably don't want to eat that.
So diet, exercise, the other things that are important to try to reduce is alcohol consumption, smoking, that includes pot, is getting enough rest. Getting enough sleep is so important.
Yeah,
Prayer, meditation, and/or relaxation are
stress
super
is big.
important to reduce stress, right? Because stress is very inflammatory to our system. Learning a new, like to become a super-ager. These are the people that super-agers are an actual category of people that I forgot what the age is. It might be 80 and over. I'm not sure. But these are people that live longer, but with quality,
Yeah,
not quantity, like your dad or my mom. Like their quality isn't quite the same now, but
no.
they live long. Like a friend of ours, we'll mention her name, our friend's mom, Camille. She's, I don't know how old exactly, I won't point the number, but she's a super-ager. She works for me. She exercises every day. She's learned, when she does technology work for me, she has to figure out how to do it. And she challenges herself to do it. So super-agers are people that um, are constantly trying to learn something new and do something new. It doesn't
Yeah,
actually equate with physical activity, which I found interesting because I swear by physical activity as a way to age well. But it correlates more with learning something and always being open to learning something new. Learning, another example of another super-ager was somebody who retired from, I guess, what was he in? I forgot what field he was in. Maybe business. And he did really well. And when he retired, though, he knew he couldn't just stop working. He knew it just wouldn't be for him. So he went back to school and he got a degree in accounting in his 60s. And he felt like that would be a good balance between, working intensely, probably certain times of the year, right, with the tax seasons, but then having less, more downtime at the other times. So still working, though. Like that was the way he super aged. I just
Yeah.
gave you an example. A friend of mine, and the way she super ages by learning new technologies, creating spreadsheets for me, creating an email address, making phone calls. So things that challenge your brain are one of the significantly important things to aging superly.
Yeah, and
Um,
the physical part, they're finding that it's not so much cardiovascular, it's weight resistance training.
yes, yeah,
Your
yeah,
core muscles and your leg muscles, especially leg strength, is a huge indicator of longevity. The stronger your
leg
legs are,
strength.
the longer you live. I mean, that's been
Well,
documented.
because we always thought, oh, balance issues occurred with people as they get older because of ear issues, but it really has nothing to do with the ears. It has to do with muscle strength and core strength, and also muscle strength and core strength also translates into better blood flow, better blood pressure. Um, Cardiovascular is important. As well. But think of it this way: as you age, the reason I think that physical exercise is so important is you think of it as you age, you lose like flexibility and you lose muscle tone very quickly. And, do you want to reach down and be able to tie your shoe? Do you want to be able to reach up and drink a cup of coffee and your shoulder doesn't bother you and you can hold the coffee in your hand? So I approach fitness that way, and I think of like what sustains independence physically. The other important things to do is, like I said, learning something new, challenging your brain, and doing this was research based, of course, by psychologists. They have it down to a number. Doing 4 positive things a day. It could be prayer. It could be, letting somebody cross the streets, stopping your car, let somebody cross. It could be anything, but doing 4 positive things like that a day. Um, doesn't have
Yeah,
to be always for other people, but just 4 good things a day is very good for your mental health. And also your social network is significantly important for how well you age. It's more and more important than they ever thought before. Being isolated and lonely as you get older happens more as we age, right? Because we lose people. That we
yeah,
accumulate losses if everybody we're friends with or know is in our generation, we lose a lot more people. So one of the things that you really should do is expand your age group of social interactions.
yeah.
Older people, younger people, not just in your age, because then there'll be people that might be around when all your friends might be dead.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
also like, that's why I like to teach, because you feel like, I feel that youthful energy, and I
yeah,
have
yeah.
this is a symbiotic relationship because I'm giving them the benefit of my years of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wisdom, and they're giving me their youthful enthusiasm and reminding me of, how I used to be when I was young,
Yeah. Yep.
hungry, optimistic, and energetic.
Yep.
And the other thing is not just social intimacy, but physical intimacy is very important, Christine. So,
I know, Anthony.
so you want to, I don't care how old you are, you can still, fool around. Um, it's really important for the oxytocin. And there's also supplementation. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not a
it's important for
doctor.
your oxytocin, your mental health.
Yes, very important. But there's certain supplements I take that have been proven. Dr. Robert Love does a lot of research at Huberman. Lion's mane mushrooms help with
Yes.
cognition, and B vitamins and fish oils to help your brain. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you can look it up, but there's nootropics, they're called, this class
Yeah.
of
The mushrooms. Yeah.
supplementations,
Yeah.
and there's huperzine, there's a few other ones, ginkgo biloba, but if they have like these supplements now that have 3 or 4 of these nootropics in them, and they really dramatically, like when you take it, it help, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You have more clarity, you have more focus,
Yeah.
you speak more freely and articulately. The
Yeah.
word retrieval is better. So, I mean, it's real, and you can actually feel the difference. So, I would recommend that, but consult your doctor first. And there's a lot of ways now that we're learning more and more about the science of the
And
brain.
that's quality again, not just like extending your life. That's enhancing the quality of the life that you live by taking good care of your health. It's just, if you're going to live a long life, you want it to be a healthy life as much as you can. Um,
Yeah, sounds good to me. You know, I mean, it's really sad when you see these people that are just so debilitated. And it is a very hard problem, but you know, sometimes this is where it gets really tricky. In Canada, last month, this 83-year-old Christian grandmother with cognitive problems was euthanized despite her stated opposition and against her family's will, because she was on the schedule to get the lethal injection, and they just gave it to her. And she explicitly said, "Don't let them kill me next week," and they did it anyway.
Oh my God.
So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a big scandal in Canada
Yeah.
because, you know, she clearly said she didn't want to do it, and they went ahead with it, and
Yeah,
he's
that's
anyway. So this is
that's
where it
the
gets really.
slippery slope with that stuff. It really is.
This is what a statement. One of our greatest ethical concerns is that the patient had explicitly declined MAID, stating it violated her Christian faith. Once a vulnerable patient explicitly declines the path, the facility should never have targeted her for reevaluation board behind closed doors while her primary advocate was away. We are
Yeah.
deeply alarmed by the absolute lack of transparency and independent oversight regarding the application process.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is where it gets very tricky. Once you start playing God, you know,
Yeah.
we're not God. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's a very tricky thing. It goes in the other direction as well. I had a patient once a long time ago I was asked to evaluate, and she had gangrene in her leg, and it was traveling up her leg. And the only way to keep her alive and well was for her to have that leg amputated. And she was refusing to have that done. Now, isn't that her right to choose to have that not done to her? She's alert and oriented and she has all her faculties.
well, this is where it gets so
So,
confused. This is where it gets so complicated because I've been in situations where I was suicidal and I felt like, I mean, I would qualify in Canada to end it all. And
you would have.
I might
Yeah,
have done it.
probably would
So
have.
I wouldn't be here doing the Tony Frida show
With
with my
me.
beautiful fiance. So, you know, sometimes life doesn't feel worth living, but it's just temporary, you know?
Yeah, but that mental health component to their criteria is a little troubling to me.
A little, yeah. I mean,
Mm,
so it's very
yeah,
troubling to me. And because, you know, like it's a fluid situation when you have a mental health crisis. Some,
very much. It's a very fluid situation. It's very fluid. It's not permanent
yeah, it's
a
acute
lot of
or
times. Sometimes it's something
yeah,
more
sometimes it's
difficult,
chronic,
but
but sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're just
yeah,
going through a really rough patch and you just feel like,
yeah,
what's the point of all this?
yeah,
But you know, come to terms with it, and you're reborn and you have a new lease on life. So, but to just cash in your chips before, you know, you're really out of the game, this is like, there's nothing more tragic than that. So
yeah.
I know I'm stating both sides of the equation here because I am ambivalent because it's life or death, and it's like, I'm not God, so I
Yeah,
have
and
no
it is
personal
though,
opinion.
and then at the same time, it is a toll on the caregivers, taking care of their parents. The
Yeah, it's
children or children or spouses. A lot of times,
Yeah, it's shortening their life and their
it,
quality of life.
it's
That's where
very
the unfair
stressful
part
and
comes in. To
yeah,
me, that's
yeah,
part is selfish and unfair because, you know, you don't want your kids to have the end of their lives ruined, and you don't want to spend their whatever inheritance, the whole thing. There's nothing left to give your kids. You
or
know,
just the time you have, the valuable time you have left.
it's
Living to take care of a loved one. I mean, I could see both sides to it. That there's something kind of honorable about doing that, right? Taking care of your parent or your loved one.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I do it and you do it. Something honorable about
yeah,
that, but there's also something honorable about saying, you know what, they suffered enough. I've suffered enough, and it's time.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, I think getting back to solutions, like a lot of these people live very unhealthy lives, both physically and mentally, and through pharmacy and through bad food and never
Environment.
sedentary life and never exercising. You know, you see them, and it's just like they're going to have a horrible end of life quality, and they know that, and you know that.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can do as individuals is just try to take care of our body. This is our
It's your
temple.
responsibility. It's really incumbent upon each person to take care of their body.
Yeah, and not just for you, but for your family and for society at large. Like, you know, it's not a selfish thing to take care of your body, because if you don't, other people are going to pay the price later, not just you. You're going to have your family is going to be, devastated by it, and they're going to pay a price, and
Yeah.
financially and emotionally and with their time and with their life and their life force. So, like
Yeah.
you said, it is incumbent upon us to just learn about the ways to prevent these things from happening, things like
Yeah.
dementia and physical decline, as much as you can. Obviously, some things you
Yeah.
have control over,
Yeah.
but there are things you have control over, and we have
There's
to
a
take
lot of
control
things
of
you
them.
have control over, and I think, the things you have control over aren't they're not really that hard to do. They just require building in these habits, but exercise, diet, socialization, meditation, relaxation. Oh, he's going to talk about nicotine.
The Dr.
Nicotine.
Artist says
Uh-huh.
he's done studies that nicotine improves cognition and helps prevent dementia as well. Now, I'm not a
Hmm.
doctor. I'm not telling you, but this is a way to
Yeah.
do it if you're so inclined.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the data is on it, but it is showing
Dr.
a lot of.
Ardis, Dr. Ardis, you can look up his research. Very fascinating research in the power of
Yeah.
nicotine.
Yeah, there's a
And,
lot of medicine that's using nicotine to treat various
well, it's
forms
a
of
naturally occurring
inflammation.
Substance. Tobacco
Right,
has
it's
the
not a
most of it.
cigarette. It's a
No, not a
plant.
cigarette. I'm
Yeah,
talking about that. I'm talking about
right.
isolating the nicotine,
Yeah.
which is naturally occurring in tobacco leaf, but it's also in many other vegetables. It's in eggplants and tomatoes
And
and
it's related to why people didn't get the people that smoked cigarettes didn't get COVID, right?
exactly. The people who didn't smoke had much lower incidences of COVID if they got it at all, and they couldn't figure it out at first. But then they realized it's because they had a lot of nicotine in the body, and nicotine was fighting off the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's well known research about that.
Yeah.
So, and it was puzzling them, like, how does it doesn't make it's like counterintuitive.
Right. Right.
But
It doesn't.
so the nicotine research is fascinating, and like I say, Dr. Artis has the studies to back it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to help you here. So get on the nicotine and take lion's mane and take care of yourself, for Christ's sake. Because if you don't, you're going to suffer. Your family's going to suffer, and society is going to suffer. So, any final thoughts, Dr. Mara?
No. I think just trying to be as healthy as you can to reduce the likelihood of an illness, because we all are going to wind up with things, either of a mechanical nature, like bad knees, bad backs, or of a like more of your plumbing, like your cardiovascular system, your GI system,
Oh, yeah.
or
Explain that. There's like the four parts that start to decline.
yeah, so your mechanical parts usually start to go when you get into like your 50s, knees, back, your structure, the structural kind of stuff, ankles, right? Or your plumbing, like you're in your 30s and 40s, you start to get buildups in your arteries. In your 30s and 40s, it starts, cardiovascular issues start to build up. Gastrointestinal issues start to occur in those ages, but as we get a little older than that, and then oncological, cancers, right? Cells start to multiply, right? That's more of a cancer kind of thing. Oncological, we can all get different kinds of cancers, or we start to have a breakdown in our cells, right? So more neurodegenerative diseases like dementia, like Alzheimer's, like MS, like Parkinson's, those kinds of things start to occur. Or, even simple as, cell shrinkage is also just your muscles kind of starting to break apart and break down.
Yeah, it
So
happens
all
on a
these things
cellular
start to happen.
level. On a
What?
cellular level with your mitochondria
Yes.
and your
Yeah.
telomeres.
Yeah.
But a lot of the cancers are lifestyle, because everything's so toxic and
Yeah.
carcinogenic, all these
Yeah.
additives and all of
Yeah.
these pesticides and herbicides,
Preservatives. Yeah.
glyphosate,
Yeah.
and eat, like, don't drink tap water ever.
Don't.
Don't drink it. more than half Americans have parasites in them, and more than half of them got it from
Yeah.
drinking the tap water.
Yeah.
It's really just one simple thing you can do is just not drink tap water.
Yeah. Yeah.
To help your longevity and
I
your
mean, I'd
quality.
like to say don't drink alcohol, but I can't, people aren't gonna like
Yeah, don't
hearing
drink
that.
that either. That's not good. I mean, it kills
It's
your brain cells. I mean,
well,
if you
it's not.
pour
It's just not
alcohol,
just the alcohol in and of itself. It's the toxins in the alcohol from the plants in which they were grown and the chemicals in which the plants were treated. So
yeah.
it's not the alcohol necessarily.
Oh, but I mean, if you pour alcohol, straight alcohol on human cells, it kills them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's poison. It's literal
Yeah.
poison.
No, it's very, 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 very bad for your brain.
But then you're
Very
right.
bad.
So then an average glass of California wine has 60 preservatives in it. Like I knew guys who
Roundup is a big one in
there's
those
60. That's an herbicide, but
Roundup.
there's Roundup, there's herbicides and
Yeah.
pesticides. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
doubly,
It's
toxic.
really, really, yeah, they're bad.
But I
Really
know
bad.
guys who worked at the vineyards out here on Long Island, and they told me I would never drink this stuff because they saw what it was sprayed with and how heavily laden it
Yeah.
was with
Yeah.
toxic,
And
cancerous
yeah,
chemicals.
and I know everybody wants to have
carcinogenic.
fun and drink alcohol. But there
Right.
are these new families of different kinds of drinks coming out that are more nootropics.
Yeah.
I believe that they don't really give you the kick or the buzz that you'll get from alcohol.
I'm gonna take this.
But
I need a drink. So,
yeah.
this discussion. But I think we covered a lot of ground. And like I say, listen, we care about you. We want you to live a healthy, long, productive life and the highest quality you can. And there are things you can do about it. We just talked about a few of them here today. But please take care of yourself. You're a fractal expression of God. Your body is a sacred, holy temple. Treat it as such, and you will be rewarded. And your family will thank you. So thank you, Dr. Marra, for your time. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank
Press
you.
the little heart.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Mm-hmm.